What's up, everybody? It's Glenn here, your host, and in today's video, we're going to be talking about everything wrong with X-Men Apocalypse. Go! Alright, now, X-Men Apocalypse was released in 2016. The gameplay you're watching now was X-Men Legends, released on the original Xbox and the PS2. X-Men Legends 2 has something to do with Apocalypse, and I'm talking about X-Men Apocalypse, so let's get into this. Now, X-Men Apocalypse details with the X-Men actually having to fight Apocalypse after he comes back from his thousands of years of slumber. Now, let's get into the first part of this. For one, the beginning part of it, when you saw Mystique walking up to free Nightcrawler from his cage. Well, she was there to free everybody, but Nightcrawler and Angel were the only ones fighting at the time. Now, the main thing everybody was wondering, why didn't Nightcrawler teleport out of that cage? Now, he has the ability to teleport wherever he wants to go. Now, he has to see where he's going, and he has to have been there before. He has to basically get a mental image in his head in order to see where he's going. Now, with the cage, why didn't he jump out the cage? Well, it was revealed later on in the movie that certain electrical fields can knock out mutants' abilities, even psychic type of abilities. Nightcrawler could not teleport out of that cage because it had the same type of electrical properties. Now, let's get into the Quicksilver saves everyone scene. We're going to be talking about the scene where Quicksilver just comes up, runs into the X-Mansion while it's in the middle of exploding, and saves everyone. Number one, how did he know where the explosion was? Like, everybody's going crazy. Like, how did this guy just automatically know where it was? He had no indication, period, point blank. At the end, he just came in there, and he came in there at the right time, too. Now, let's talk about that. Quicksilver did not know where, the explosion was happening. He didn't know there was an explosion, period. What happened was, he ran through the X-Mansion, checked every single room for the professor. Quicksilver is a being that does not need to, I'll say, he does not need to gain the interaction of anybody to do anything. He goes wherever and does whatever he wants. Why? Because he's super fast. Now, Quicksilver ran all through the X Mansion looking for Charles Xavier. Once he got down to the basement, he saw this light. He goes towards the light to see that it was Hank and the others on the opposite side of this explosion. Now, let me just say this. For one, Quicksilver being that close up on the explosion should have roasted him, whether or not he's moving fast or not. That was intense heat. It should have roasted him. He was able to be close enough to that. He was able to push a lot of the debris out the way. Now let's get into this. Realistically speaking, and literally, I hate using logic with comic book characters. I really do hate it, but people like doing it, so let's get into this. Now, Quicksilver being able to move those little types of debris should have broken his he should have broke his finger off. Touching stuff at that high speed would literally shatter every bone in your body, not to mention the momentum that it's traveling at. If you try to touch it, it will literally just tear through your finger. It's too sharp, it has too much momentum, plus it's hot as hell. So you got a bunch of different factors in there why that would drastically hurt him. After seeing the explosion happening in slow motion, Quicksilver is able to run every single person out of the X-Men mansion within, I'll say, about 1 or 2 seconds. Literally, it doesn't take any time for an explosion of that magnitude to, I'll just say, fully engulf the mansion. We'll say 1, 2, maybe 3 seconds at the most. I'm honestly going with 2. Let's be honest here. Now, him grabbing people. Remember how in the first movie when he grabbed somebody, he had to hold their neck so they did not get whiplash? Whiplash. He did that with Magneto. Now, in here, you actually seen him being able to grab quite a few people without even holding their neck. Let's be honest. Let's say if you had the muscles to travel at that speed, you grabbing anybody else and running anywhere at that speed, your body can handle it, but it will rip the person's skin off of their face. Another thing, people are talking about how did Quicksilver break that window so easily. You have to understand the sheer momentum this guy is going. You remember when we first saw him in Days of Future Past, he was just able to touch somebody's skin, and it was a vibration that went all through their face like they got Mayweathered. So you gotta understand with that momentum, he was able to just literally carefully move his 2 hands down and shatter that window. I mean, all the brickwork around it and everything. Actually, since we're talking about that window, let's get back into this. Now, Quicksilver actually showed himself pushing certain people out of the window, and they were slowly moving towards the sheets that he had hung up on the tree. Now, there was two kids who he threw up in the air, and they managed to just rightly land in the pool. Now, for him to actually get that trajectory right, because it's not just regular physics, this dude has to push them at the right speed just so they can outfly the explosion and land safely. And he has to push them in a way that the momentum will slow down so they don't just keep flying through the damn sky. He managed to do that with two kids, and the rest of the kids he saved them by, like I said, it was like a drape of curtain he put over the tree so that it could catch the kids. Now, him doing that, just pushing them like that, for one, as soon as they hit that curtain, they should have still been sent back flying. Now, the two kids that landed in the pool, one, those kids landing in that pool at that speed and height would have broken something. It would have knocked him unconscious, in all honesty. Let me add this too. When he zoomed Magneto through the Pentagon at a short distance, Magneto felt some type of, I'll say, vertigo and such. When he did it to these kids, they didn't feel anything. They were just fine. Hank looked around at him and was like, oh, what are you doing here? They didn't have any of that. So, the studio kind of forgot to put that in there. But it's cool. All right. Now that we talked about that, let's actually talk about Nightcrawler. I want to touch bases on this. The Nightcrawler paradox. Nightcrawler in X-Men, it was X2. Nightcrawler to X-Men 2 did not know who Jean and Storm was when they walked in on him. Did not know who they were at all. They didn't even know him. The professor didn't even know him, know nothing about his abilities. But in X-Men Apocalypse, they found a young Nightcrawler. Well, Mystique found him and brought him to the X-Base. So he already had knowledge of who the X-Men were. He knew who Jean was since in this Quicksilver scene, Jean was sitting next in the car to Nightcrawler. They were talking. Yeah. So he should have known who they were, and she damn sure should have recognized who he was. Literally. She even says, what are all those scars and such? And he says it was one for every sin. Now, he is heavily religious, and that's mainly because of his demonic appearance, He wants to show people that he's not evil, he's not a demon, so he took on Christianity. Makes sense. Another thing, too, the younger Nightcrawler said he only had to have seen it, and he could go there. Now, the older Nightcrawler said that he has to see where he's going at all time, otherwise he could end up in a wall. So, you getting older, when that means that you would have gotten better control of your mutant powers, you would have gotten worse. Yeah, Nightcrawler paradox, guys. Make sure to like for that. Alright, now we're also going to be talking about Apocalypse versus Quicksilver. Now, Apocalypse and Quicksilver did go at it. Now, basically, since Quicksilver was so fast, it looked like Apocalypse was just standing still. Quicksilver got about, I'll say, 5 or 6 hits off of him. Then, some way, Apocalypse manages to catch Quicksilver as fast as he's running. Quicksilver can outrun radio waves. That's faster than light speed. Yes, Quicksilver can move faster than light. So, Apocalypse manages to grab him. That brought on so much controversy. So many questions. How the hell did he do that? Could he see him? Blah, blah, blah. Now, the Celestials. The Celestials are a supreme being in the Marvel Universe. You guys who are, Marvel fans will know who I'm talking about. The Celestials, were the ones who actually started the whole mutation on Earth. They were experimenting. That's why Nightcrawler looks like a demon and such. They were demon ones and they were angel looking ones. Anyway, the Celestials had technology that trumped everything. Everything. Now, being able to see light speed or just a highly advanced form of detection that our mind can comprehend, that is the Celestials all day, guys. And Apocalypse was wearing Celestial armor. Yes, he was wearing Celestial armor. So that shows you he has something to do with it. He actually challenged them as well, if my comic book knowledge is correct. If it's not, I apologize. I believe he challenged them. But anyway, he had the technology to be able to detect Quicksilver. Plain and simple. That's why Apocalypse was able to do that. Plus, Apocalypse has seen many speedsters throughout his entire life, so it's possible that he actually was able to catch him because he was used to it. Now, let's get into the final part of this. Now, Apocalypse dying by Phoenix, even though Wolverine didn't. It doesn't matter how strong Apocalypse was, he was still made of flesh. He just, was a little bit tougher than everybody. Now, with the Phoenix Force, with Wolverine, she tore through the skin to the adamantium bone. She was eradicating bone. That's what she did with Charles Xavier near the end of X3. Now, with Wolverine, adamantium, she could not burn through it. It's indestructible. She could not burn through adamantium. Apocalypse was an all-powerful mutant, but he was just flesh and bone. There is no inner exoskeleton that's like Wolverine's. That's why it was easier for him to die from the Phoenix burn. Not to mention that Cyclops, Storm, everybody was really going in on this guy. His bones just could not take it. His bones, once again, are not made of metal. They're just regular bones. And Phoenix Force is known to burn through bone. Everything wrong with X-Men Apocalypse right here on Popular Video Games. Thanks again for watching, guys. I know you're thinking, wait, how come you're not calling yourself Cable Line Network anymore? Well, watch the Online Holocaust of 2016 and you will understand why. Thanks again for watching, you guys. You've been an amazing audience. Peace out and talk to you later.